Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a review and discussion of Journey of Souls by Michael Newton, and then his sequel to that book, Destiny of Souls. Michael Newton was a hypnotherapist who supposedly hypnotized about 7,000 different people and did past life regression and in-between life regression. So what that was is he went back and had people remember and recall experiences that they had during their past lives on Earth and their time in the afterlife in between lives. The reason I read this book and the sequel was because it was recommended to me by a friend. I was watching a lot of videos on YouTube about people who had had near-death experiences, had passed over and then had been resuscitated and come back, because I wanted to know what the afterlife was like, just if people had gone, what they had seen, what their personal experiences were, because I'm writing a novel about past lives and reincarnation, and a lot of it takes place in the afterlife. So anybody who had been there and gotten a small glimpse of what it was actually like, I wanted to hear from. I wanted the afterlife in my book to be as well structured as possible. I started thinking about all the horrible things that have happened on this planet just in my lifetime. I mean, all the terrorist attacks, 9/11 obviously being the biggest one that I can think of, that was the closest to where I live, that affected me the most, by, the Chernobyl explosion and all the horrific things that caused. If you think about all the horrific things that have happened on this planet just in your lifetime, and then think about all the things that happened maybe in your parents' or your grandparents' lifetime. World War II, World War I, the Holocaust, and then start thinking about all the injustices, slavery, rapes and murders and tortures, all the horrible things that have happened on this planet. And then, watching all of the videos of people who have had the out-of-body experiences or the near-death experiences, when they talk about going into the tunnel and going into the light, and it's so nice and it's so great, and they all describe this feeling of total love. And I felt it too after my mom died. I had a dream that I was sort of seeing what she saw, or feeling what she felt after she passed. It was just this feeling of peace and love and joy. But it kind of pisses me off that if that's what you feel on the other side all the time, this peace and divine love and joy and everything is so great and we're always getting high in God's love, it's like, good for you over there. We're down here on this planet dealing with terrorist attacks, nuclear problems and explosions, child molesters, murderers, rapists. So glad you guys are up there. Don't worry about what's going on down here. So yeah, I'm just trying to balance all my emotions about feeling like, if the gods are real, and heaven is real, and heaven is so wonderful, and everyone who's had a near-death experience and come back to tell us what they saw describes the same thing, and everyone who's had a past life hypnosis comes back and describes the same thing. It's so great over there. Why are these horrible things happening here? So writing the novel was my way of sort of coming to terms with all that and balancing it in my mind. And also, just growing up as an abused child and having this toxic, malignant, soulless person in my family and having to deal with them. That's another reason why I wanted to write this, why I did all this research about this. So if you're curious and you're interested, you can go to my website and there's excerpts from my novel, and then you can join the mailing list if you're interested in reading it when it comes out. When I was writing my novel, I focused on everything that happened on planet Earth first, so I just got into this habit of getting as much research as possible. For example, one of the characters in my book has leukemia, so I was online doing a ton of research about leukemia treatments and therapy. Some other characters in my novels, they live in Massachusetts and they get a divorce, so my husband comes home from work one night and I'm on the computer researching how to get a divorce in Massachusetts. He's like, "What are you reading that for?" Got a little scared for a minute. So yeah, I was just in the habit of researching everything I could. I wanted it to be as realistic as possible on all levels. And so I wrote everything that happened on Earth with this group of soul companions. A group of soul companions are people who are birthed into existence by the Divine Mother at the same time, according to Michael Newton. That's the way I was conceptualizing it in my head. So all these people, there's like 6 or 7 of them in this soul companion group. And you're all born together, so you're with your soulmates and your soul companions. And that's how you're birthed into existence, and how then you reincarnate again and again and again and again with the same group of people. So I had that in mind when I was writing this novel, but it's the first novel I've ever written. So I started with everything that happened on Earth first, just because that was easier to write. You don't have to create a whole separate world. And then by the time I got around to, okay, now I have to write about their past lives, why they have this karma, why they were born into this crazy life. So a friend recommended this book to me. She said, you've got to read this book. It's so interesting. I mean, he hypnotized about 7,000 people, did past life regression and in between life regression. And there's so many different amazing things and experiences when people talk about the afterlife, things that he uncovered about what it's like to be on the other side before you come back and reincarnate. Now, a lot of the things in this book I was just visualizing before I read it. For example, the technology that they have on the other side, tapping into the Akashic records, the way that's described in this series of books is exactly the way I was envisioning it, which was amazing. Having the ability to sort of watch things on screens and having sort of like an advanced, like our modern touchscreen technology supposedly started over there as a way of organizing things. And supposedly technology always starts there and then slowly trickles down and we get it here. So yeah, bringing anything up on a touchscreen to access the Akashic records, that they do that. According to, the series of books. And then also when you go and choose your parents for your future lives, watch it on a screen and pick your next lifetime that you're going to get, or glimpses of your parents, potential parents that you could have in your next lifetime. So there's a lot of things that, Michael Newton wrote in these books that I was like, oh wow, this is really, really vibing with me. I was visualizing this whole thing exactly as you're describing. There was also what I took from his writing and put it in my novel is soul age. He talks about how souls, and their different development, and it's basically different colors for different souls, like the aura of the soul. So your body still looks the way it does in life, your human body, but the soul energy, your aura, in the afterlife, people can see your colors. So in the first book, it was structured like this. He was talking about all the different soul colors and how people age. And this was based upon, again, all the people that he hypnotized, and they would tell him, oh, this person is this certain soul aura color. And then he sort of slowly pieced together that which color represents which stage of development, depending on how old your soul is and how much you've evolved. So in the first book, Journey of Souls, he talks about soul aura colors from this. The youngest souls, ones that are just come out of the birthing chamber, just been birthed into existence, being white, and then running the gamut all the way down to the oldest souls, the ones closest to the gods, the most evolved, most spiritual ones being a dark shade of purple. In the second book, the chart about soul and aura development colors was much more detailed, and what I figured out is it's basically the color wheel. Pink is just red with white in it. So the newest souls are white, and then baby souls are pink, and then it runs orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. It's the same, it's like it goes in the same order as a color wheel. So the youngest souls being white, and then the oldest souls being purple. This is based upon all the people that he's hypnotized. What percentage of the people that he's hypnotized were of what soul age? Now, he specifically said, I'm not assuming that the entire planet, that these percentages apply to the entire planet, but for the sake of my novel, I had to break it up somehow, so I just took the percentages of people that he's hypnotized and broke it up the same way. So 37% of the population of the Earth would be infant and baby souls. So infant souls would have about 1 to 10 lifetimes, and baby souls would have about 10 to 20 lifetimes, and the infant would be pure white, and the babies would be pink. And then child souls, people who had about 20 to 30 lifetimes, would have orange auras. Young souls would be about 30 to 40 lifetimes, and they have yellow auras. Middle-aged souls with green auras, about 40 to 50 lifetimes. Old souls would have blue auras, and they have about 50 to 100 lifetimes. And then the ancients have indigo auras, and the overseers, really old souls, have purple auras. Now, these people don't reincarnate back down on Earth. they're considered permanent residents of the afterlife. They're so evolved they don't have to come here anymore. And so supposedly only 1% of people who have 50 or plus lifetimes are supposedly make up only 1% of the Earth's population. And this makes sense to me because, and I hate to admit this, but most people are really stupid and annoying. And this is probably why we're surrounded by a bunch of young idiots. Now, if you look at a chart of like population growth on the planet, look how much it's spiked just in the past couple hundred years. And so, because the population on this planet has just grown so rapidly over the past couple hundred years. So if you take his theory about reincarnation and how everyone has a soul, most people would have to be young souls just based upon the amount of souls that would be needed that were being birthed into existence on planet Earth. Another interesting thing that he talks about is all the different jobs that people have in the afterlife. Because it's always kind of bothered me, the idea that like you die and then they say rest in peace. That sounds so boring. Like, I don't want to rest. I want to be active when I die, okay? I want to go and do awesome things that I can't really do on here on Earth just because of the limitations of the planet that we're living on. So I hate that phrase, rest in peace. No! I'm going to be quite active. He talks about all the different jobs that people have. Some people with really nurturing natures work as incubator mothers and nursery school teachers with the young new infant, child, and baby souls. He talks about animal caretakers who work with pets after they pass away. He talks about archivists who work in the Akashic records, making sure everything is filed correctly, helping people access their past life records and journals. He talks about life books, where people go and look at your own life book from your past life and your past life and your past life and all the different areas that you can go and flip through and find all this information about who you were, what you did, your life choices, things that you did that helped your soul evolve, and things that you did that, you know, were bad karma that had to be made up. So that's all in the life books in the Akashic records. And he also talks about dream masters. So if you want to contact a living loved one, he talks about dream masters who help the passed away build dreams and weave dreams and then go and contact their living loved ones through dreams. So it was interesting, all these different jobs that people in the afterlife have. In order to have a job, you have to be a middle-aged soul. Young souls are too busy working on self-development. Their job is to develop themselves. They're not evolved enough to help others yet. So I see all of that, everything that he wrote in the book. This is all stuff that really, really resonates with me. This is all things that, you know, I was envisioning for the afterlife as I was writing my novel, even before I found this book. Or not even about my novel, it's just this is how I've always envisioned it. I don't think you just go and ride clouds all day and don't do anything and just rest in peace, okay? I've always envisioned an afterlife, or had a sixth sense that the afterlife, that there's a purpose to it, people have meaning and jobs, and it's, people are very active and, you know, doing things. So this book really resonated with me on a lot of different levels of things that I agree with. There's a couple things in this book that I absolutely do not agree with, however, things that he said. According to him, every single person is on, it's called the Journey of Souls, every single person is on this particular journey, okay, that he describes of having your soul grow and elevate through these colors through reincarnation. And according to him, every single person has a soul. Now, here's my problem with this theory, and this is the breakdown of all the different, you know, soul development stages that, according to him, that people have in their aura colors and their stages of development. My problem with his theory is that he was a healer, and it was his job to help people. I mean, he was a therapist and a hypnotherapist, so he was on, you know, he was a healer. That was his job, and that was his you know, the sort of state that he was in, and the people that were coming to him, he was attracting people that wanted to be healed. Now, here's the thing. Nobody goes to a hypnotherapist and spends, it's very expensive to do a past life regression, okay? It's like $200 to $700. So even if you're rich, nobody is going to just do that on an impulse buy. Nobody's going to walk by a hypnotherapist's office like a cafe and go, I'd like to go in and get hypnotherapy, past life regression. Like, I'd like to go in and get a cup of coffee. That's not going to happen. Okay, so he only hypnotized and worked with people who were very interested in spirituality, wanted to know about their past lives, that were really drawn to this and wanted to know about it, okay? So he's only working with people on this soul level. He's never going to get to hypnotize anybody who's not interested in spirituality. I would like to see some hypnotherapists go into a prison and hypnotize someone like Charles Manson, a mass murderer, a serial killer, a rapist, okay? He did not hypnotize even a single person who's done something so horrific to figure out what their soul journey is. So a lot of people talk about organic portals, people who are born without souls. According to Michael Newton, everybody has a soul, and I just don't agree with this. He talks about psychopaths and sociopaths very briefly, glosses over it, says all people that do these horrible things, that commit these horrible, violent acts, it's all just psychological problems. There's nothing wrong with their souls. I don't agree with this at all. I've added 2 separate categories under the baby and infant souls, people who are here on earth, and this is the inadequate souls and the totally soulless. The interesting thing about sociopaths is something has to happen to them to turn them what we would call evil, okay, to make them go out and murder or torture or rape someone. They have to have an experience in childhood that turns them bad. So if you're an inadequate soul, this is my theory, that if you're born with very little soul energy and something traumatic happens to you, you have the possibility of becoming a sociopath, because that has to have some sort of experience. Also, I think that if you do horrible things, you chip away your own soul. For example, people who murder, they talk about the first time you murder someone, it's so hard and it hits you so hard, but then if you go down this path and you just keep killing people, it becomes easier and easier every time. The reason it becomes easier every time is because every time you commit a horrible act, you're chipping away at your own soul's energy. So the first time you're going to feel that you've done something, that empathy feeling of I've taken a life off the planet, because we're all connected through soul energy, first time you do it, it's going to hit you so hard. Then you chip away at your own soul, and your own soul goes every single time you do something horrible, and then it becomes easier and easier because you don't have that connection to the divine. You don't have that empathetic connection that connects everyone, and that's why it becomes easier and easier and easier to do. The more you do horrific things, the easier it becomes to do them, because you're chipping away your own soul's energy, losing your empathy. Inadequate souls, sociopaths. Okay, there's some soul energy there, and it's damaged, or there was originally some, and then they chip away to the point where they just become plain soulless. Now, psychopaths are different. These are people born bad, the bad seed. Okay, these are people just born. There's nothing about their upbringing that turns them bad. You see like these parents of these children where they'll be trying to choke or suffocate their sibling, and they don't think there's anything wrong with it, and there's nothing that the parents could have done. There's nothing about the environment. These people are just bad seed. Psychopaths, so totally soulless. There's also non-violent psychopaths that'll do things like ask people to go ice skating when they know the ice is thin, or ask people to go hiking when they know that wild animals in the area and they could get killed, or ask people to go hiking in a dangerous, scary environment. There's the non-violent psychopaths who don't do illegal things, but they do things where they'll put other people in danger and then enjoy watching how things unfold. Or, horrible, horrible bosses who manipulate, abuse their employees, people who are verbally or emotionally abusive with their children. These are all inadequate souls. And then people who rape, torture, murder, totally soulless. So, I'm sorry. I think if you hurt someone, if you rape someone, kill someone, molest a child, there has to be a total lack of soul connection energy, total lack of empathy. In cluster B personality, there's this total lack of empathy. They can't feel anything. They can't connect to anyone. Do you know that feeling when you're watching the news and you see a story about a mother who lost her child in a natural disaster or in a shooting, or somebody who lost someone they love, and you don't know these people, you've never met these people, but you get this pang of pain when you hear about a story of something horrible happening to a stranger? You don't know this person. They could be on the other side of the planet. You've never interacted with them. But you watch the news and you see this story about something horrible happening to someone. And you feel this empathy. You feel this pain go through you. That is from the divine soul energy inside of you. We're all born from the same source. We all come from the same place. You know, we're all birthed into existence through supposedly divine mother and male energy. So we're all connected. And that is why you feel it. The soulless don't have that, and that's why they can't empathize. So anyway, that's how I've broken up my book. And I had to add the inadequate souls and the soulless. I did it for two reasons. One, I have a malignant narcissist in my family who, again, watch the video if you want to hear me talk about it. I truly believe that there's something so inadequate about this man. You look into his eyes, and I've seen him at his worst, and it's just like there isn't really a person in there. Narcissists kind of operate like the Terminator. Like, they're always keeping track of who said something funnier than them, who is better looking than them, who makes more money than them, because all those people have to be pulled down and they have to be above everyone. So it's like there's always like a grid going on behind their eyes, like seeing like the Terminator. They can't have real connections with people. They can't interact with people and have true meaningful relationships. It's all about this control, manipulation, and abuse. And that is my uncle. And so this is where I got this theory that there's some people, they call them organic portals, that are just walking around with very limited soul energy or absolutely no souls. So I call them inadequate souls and the soulless. So I don't think Michael Newton was right about, oh, everybody has a soul. Because obviously he's never had to deal with anyone in my family. If you have a malignant narcissist in your family, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like you look into their eyes and sometimes you see traces of an actual person, a little bit of soul energy. Sometimes they're so bad that it just seems like there's nothing there. There's just too much enjoyment of creating misery for other people. So perhaps it's just a psychological problem. Perhaps it's a lack of soul energy. Perhaps it's a combination of both. So for the purposes of my novel, I added these extra two categories. And also, I mean, let's face it, there has to be conflict. And in a world that Michael Newton created in this afterlife, he created this world based upon everybody that he hypnotized. Everything is so nice and bright and shiny, and there's no conflict, and everyone's relationship is great with everybody else. And that would make an absolutely terrible novel because there would be absolutely no conflict. So I can't apply that to my novel, and I don't truly believe that that's how things work. So I think he should have broadened the spectrum and hypnotized people who were not on this, soul development stage, who were not really curious about spirituality, not wanting to grow. I think you should have gone to a prison and tried to hypnotize a psychopath, sociopath, a rapist, a serial killer, somebody who had done something that was so horrible to figure out what their soul journey was. That would have broadened the spectrum. That would have made the book a lot better, in my opinion. Now, I don't know if it would be possible to hypnotize someone like that, because psychopaths and sociopaths have a very, very hard time being vulnerable, but it would have been an interesting experiment to see if he could have. I don't think that just working with people who are, spiritual and curious about spirituality and curious about their past lives, I don't think that just working with that group of people is enough to, write an honest book that encompasses everybody and everything. Okay, you've got to go to the other side of the spectrum and hypnotize people who are not on this stage of development to get a full perspective of how things work. Another thing he talks about is like everything on the other side, your relationships with other people are just so great. No matter how much resentment you have in life, when you get over there, everything is just so great with everyone. I don't agree with that. Someone who has recently cut off my entire family due to decades and decades of excusing and ignoring abuse. Click here to watch the full video if you're interested in that. I don't agree with the fact that once you get over there, all your relationships are just fine and dandy. I have a lot of issues with a lot of people in my family that I've cut off that I choose not to be a part of my life anymore. If we're soul companions and we have to come back and meet in the afterlife, shit's gonna go down. It's not gonna be nice and shiny, okay? My mom has already passed away. When we get reunited, shit needs to be dealt with. I don't have this theory that just because you're dead, everything is just fine and dandy. Okay, so that is how he describes people's relationships in the afterlife. I don't agree with that at all. I think that that's a selling point. People like to read about wonderful afterlives, and that's what he sold. So I don't know if he was 100% being honest about that, or if it's just, I just don't agree with it. I don't think that's possible. It's certainly not going to be possible for me. How I think you can tell if you yourself personally are an old soul, there's a couple of things. Instant karma. If you do something wrong, you will get caught. For example, if you were in elementary school or middle school or high school and you cheated on a test and a bunch of other people cheated on the test, you'd be the one that got caught and punished. Everybody else would get away with it. If you're an old soul, the universe, they expect more from you. Gods expect more from you, so you're going to get karma that's going to be like that. I once did something that was really bad, and I won't say what it was. I said something about someone, and it was really nasty, and I went across the street to get a sandwich. I almost got hit by a car. My shoe came off in the middle of the road. I got to the store to buy the deli to buy my sandwich. I didn't have my credit card with me. I had my debit card. I'd forgotten it up in the office where I was working. I had to cross the street again. Almost had another accident. Came back, got the card, went down a third time to get my sandwich. Got my sandwich, paid for it. Got upstairs. And it wasn't even the right sandwich, and I ate it anyway. And I knew I was getting just like, after like just one thing after another this day of just like bad karma, bad karma, bad karma, until I apologized for what I had said. If you are an old soul, the universe expects a lot from you. It's kind of like, what would you expect more from? A toddler? Or a teenager? Or a middle-aged person? Who would you expect just in our lifetime to act the most mature, to do the right thing, to have the most morals, to know what the right thing is? Who would you expect that from? Middle-aged person you would expect the most from, and then the teenager, and then you would have no expectations of the child. So it's the same exact thing. If you're an old soul, your karma, you always get it right away. They expect a lot from you. Another way you can tell if you're an old soul is there's certain relationships, people that you will meet that you just know you've met this person before. You just know. You just feel it so deeply. There's, it tends to happen stronger with, everyone has, you know, soul companions, people that we know, but with old souls, and you've had so many different lifetimes to interact with your soulmates and soul companions, and when you guys get back together, the connection is so strong. It'll still be strong for young souls, but you haven't had as much time together. So with old souls, it's just like, you instantaneously know. These people know you so well. They know exactly what you need. They know exactly how to treat you. It's like they've been with you so many times that the connection that you guys have, it's just, they just know exactly what to say and do because they know you so well. That is old soul, soulmate, or soul companion connection. Links in the description to the books Journey of Souls and A Soul's Destiny that you can read if you're interested in past life and reincarnation. I encourage you guys to read these books even if you don't agree with everything that he says. And everything is always filtered through someone's own experience. So he was a healer, and it was his job to make people feel better and to come to terms with their trauma, and that was the mindset he was always in. That was his job. That was his purpose in this lifetime. So he wrote this book through his own experience of everything that happens in the afterlife is for healing purposes. So anybody who writes a book on spirituality, you gotta understand that whatever connections they're getting from the divine, it's still being filtered through their own experience. So this book, Conversations with God, anything that you read that is about interacting with the other side, you have to understand it's being filtered through the author's experience. So it's okay to read these things and question them. Never ever read any book and take it 100% that this is the way it is. You gotta question. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe so you don't miss future videos. Please read the excerpts and sign up for the mailing list. When the novel comes out, you can read it. Thank you for watching. Blessed be.